I've always wanted to tell my side. And it feels good to be able to tell my story after holding it in for so long. The people that say that I lied, well, they're right. I did lie on stand for Todd. But for everyone that says that I am a liar, I just say that, you don't know me. A lot of people think Todd's innocent when he's not. I know how Todd was. And I don't really care what people say. As long as I know the truth, I could care less. Everyone's so worried about Texas executed an innocent man when they did not execute an innocent man. I know Todd is guilty. You don't know the whole story. You don't know my life with Todd, but I hope after watching this, you do. It's crazy that the first day I ever met him, there was a red flag and I dismissed it. The first time I met Todd, I was working at a Dairy Queen. I was a senior in high school.
Hey.
He goes, well, aren't you Stacy? I said, yes. He says, don't you drive that white pickup? I said, yes, I do. He says, don't you live in those apartments? I said, actually, I do. At the time, never thought about how did this man know all this stuff about me already, and I had never seen him a day in my life. But it's like I had already been being followed and watched. And he said, well, my brother wants to go out with you. And I said, well, why don't he come ask me? And he said, well, he's shy.
Yeah, sure. We can hang out.
When I met them that evening, Todd was the one that started talking to me. And actually the whole evening, he talked to me the whole evening. His brother actually never talked to me. So it was Todd that I ended up dating. He seemed like a really good person. He was so nice to me, and he showed me so much attention. Years later, I had asked his brother about, hey, Todd told me that he come in and asked me to go out with you, actually. And he had told me that, no, Stacy, that's not true. I didn't know you. After everything that's happened, I see so many red flags that I just dismissed. So many. This photograph of me and Todd. This actually was taken on Todd's 20th birthday. That was the day he changed. That's the day I told him I was pregnant with Amber. I was 18. I told him I was pregnant, and he said, you better not be. He goes, I didn't ask for a kid. I don't want a kid, and I don't want a wife. That's not the life I want. So I'm sure that's why I don't look so happy in this picture. Todd never pushed me, shoved me, slapped me, anything until after I told him I was pregnant for the first time. I was running a bath. We were talking about something.
I was thinking maybe it's time to look for work.
And I just don't think he liked my answer. And he just kind of pushed me. But when he pushed me over the bathtub. And I said, Todd, why did you push me like that? I could have a miscarriage. And he just said, well, that wouldn't be a bad thing. And I was just like, what? So it was a shock to me for him to even push me, but then to say that. It was heartbreaking. But he was my first boyfriend, my first on everything. He was my first. And I did love him. I was in love with him. And I guess I overlooked the little things that really were big things that I shouldn't have overlooked with him. I don't want to be a single mom raising a child. I want him here. I want him to love his daughter and love me too the way I love him. I wanted to do whatever I could just to keep my family together. I realized I was pregnant again. Amber was 8 months old, and I went to the doctor, did a sonogram, and I was pregnant with twins.
Hey.
Hey.
I went home, and Todd came through the door, and I said, hey, I'm pregnant with twins.
Are you kidding me? Again? I didn't even want the first one.
And he starts arguing with me. He starts pushing me. He gets on top of me and he's hitting me. I've never had no man beat me. No one ever beat me like he was doing. Well, I reached over to grab that phone to call 911. And he took the phone out of my hand. He starts beating me with the phone. I mean, he beat me with the phone so badly he broke the phone. And then he stops and he reaches for Amber and he says, give me that kid. I'm taking her. She's mine. I didn't know what he was going to do. I kind of throw myself up against her. I said, over my dead body. And he said, well, that can be arranged.
Careful what you wish for.
He just looked like so mad, like he could have killed me. He looked so evil. I chose not to call the cops because I was still young. And I guess I thought, I don't want any more problems. I thought maybe if I did call the cops, maybe they would arrest him and then I'd have to deal with him when he got out. So I just wanted it to be over. I didn't want to deal with him. So I chose not to call the cops. I said, get out of my house. Well, it was about a month or so, 6 weeks. We talked. He apologized. He said, I don't know why I did that. I'm so sorry. I can never apologize enough to you for what I have done. And I believed him. I'm fixing to have the twins. He acts like he's excited now about it. You know, everybody makes mistakes. So I let him back in. I didn't recognize all the evil in Todd because I love Todd. And a lot of times love is blinding. It blinds you from the truth. The twins were 2 months old. I thought Todd was having an affair because he was disappearing a lot. He was saying he was at work at times when I would find out that he wasn't. And that's what started the fight that night.
Are you calling me a liar? Is that what you're saying?
Of course not. You know that's not what I meant. He started cussing me and yelling, started pushing me around. And then Todd started hitting on me.
I don't owe you an explanation.
Stop, don't. And he held me down and Todd beat me until I seen stars. When a woman has a baby, you can start hemorrhaging. And I started bleeding real bad. Todd put me in that bathtub. I tried to tell Todd, you know, you've got to call my mom or take me to the hospital because I could die. I said, I have got to go to the hospital. No. Nope. Refused to let me go. I stayed in that tub all night. I honestly just thought I was going to die. I thought that was it. I guess I'd fallen asleep in the tub. I woke up and Todd was just sitting there. I don't know how long they had been sitting there watching me. I can still today see his face. He said, did you learn your lesson? I said, about what? And he said, about talking back to me. You don't talk back to me. I told you every time you talk back to me, this is what's going to happen to you. You've got to learn, Stacy. You've got to learn to act right. I was terrified of Todd. And I knew that if I ever was to call the cops at that time, that I would be punished by him. And he would tell me, you'll never leave me. I'll never let you leave. This is a photograph of the twins. This is actually the very first picture I ever took with the girls. I was so scared because they were so little. But I would ask Amber, which one's Cameron, which one's Carmen, and she could pick them out. But she was a good big sister to them. You see how young I am in it? When the twins were born, I was 20 years old. I always think, if that girl would have been a little bit stronger, your life could have been a lot different. I wouldn't be sitting here telling my story. If she could have just been a little bit stronger. I don't know if I could forgive her, because if she would have just woke up and stepped back and said, hey, no, this isn't going to happen, our lives would have ended up different than they are today. After we got married, he said that, I think that I'm going to go ahead and let you work, and I'm going to stay home and watch the kids. And I was working, paying the bills. I noticed that I did everything on my own. I'd go to work thinking, why do I have him there? I can do this for my girls and me. I don't need him.
You're home late?
Yeah, I had a long day at work.
And so I started standing up more for myself. Even if it was to cause a fight, I'd still stand up.
Or maybe you got a boyfriend I don't know about.
Excuse me?
I remember coming home one night and he started yelling at me.
Just shut up.
And when I turned around, he just popped me in my mouth. And I looked at him and I said, Todd, you can hit me all you want. Come the first of the year, after Christmas, I am going to divorce you. I don't need you.
We're over.
I'm done with all your evilness. I'm moving on and taking my girls with me. I was expecting him to start arguing or backhand me, but he didn't. He didn't say a word. He just looked at me, never said a word. He just never said a word. It was around December the 8th or so, and I heard a knock on the door, and it was some friends of ours, and they were there to share the news of the passing of their baby. She was pregnant, and she had a baby boy that was stillborn. And I was telling Todd, I said, I don't know how they're going to do it. I said, how can you lose your child? That would kill me. I could never lose my child. I don't think I could make it, It's just the worst thing in the world.
It's just terrible.
And Todd was just like, yeah, I know. Because I know you love the girls more than anybody that walks this earth.
You really do love your girls more than anything. Even me.
I think that planted that idea in his head. Here I'm talking about divorcing him. And so I think when I told Todd how I would feel if I lost my girls, I think maybe he remembered that. I think if I would have never said that, I don't know, maybe things would have been different. Money was always tight because it was only me working and I had 4 mouths to feed. It was December and I was at the house and Todd come in one day with 2 of his friends and they were bringing this icebox in the house. And I said, Todd, we already have an icebox. He goes, well, I'm going to fix it. I said, what do you mean fix it? It doesn't work? He says, no, it doesn't work, but I'm going to fix it. Todd took the icebox and pushed it right to the back door so you couldn't get out. I told him, I said, can we at least move it over? But he refused to. So it just sat there. Looking back now to where the icebox was, if anyone was to try to get in that back door, they couldn't. If anyone was trying to get out of the house, they could not. It was big and it was bulky, and I think it was there for a reason, to block that back door. This is the last picture we ever took together. Me and Todd took the girls to a photo store to get our pictures taken for family pictures. I wanted to give them for Christmas gifts. We're all smiling and he looked so mad, like he did not want to be there with any of us. I get angry when I look at this picture. You're with the only people that truly loved you. but you're so mad and you look so evil in it. I can't explain Todd's evilness. I can't. On December 22nd at 91, I went back to pick up the family pictures with Todd. And then I went to get Amber a Christmas dress. And he said, hey, I want to go. Let's go. What are you doing? I said, I'm looking for a Christmas dress for Amber. She doesn't need a Christmas dress. Why are you looking for a dress?
This is our last Christmas together as a family. And if I want her to have a dress, she will.
I turned around, I looked at him, I said, I'm buying my daughter a Christmas dress because I can, and it's my money. And I really don't care what you have to say because once again, I am divorcing you after Christmas. So I really don't care what you think.
Don't forget I'm divorcing you.
He looked at me. It was like a moment of, I just hate for what you just said to me. I was expecting him to argue with me or to fight me or maybe backhand me, but he didn't say anything. He didn't say a word. And so he got mad and went back to the car. I think he's seen a person that was becoming something that he didn't like. A person that was standing up to him and saying, hey, I'm done. Enough's enough. I think that was the trigger. I've got to put her back in her place. I've got to take from her to make her that weak woman again because she's getting too strong. I got up on December 23rd, 1991, and I went into the twins' bedroom, fed them, gave them their bottles, and we were just playing, and, it was almost Christmas time, and I kind of looked up, and Todd was standing at the door and looking in on us.
Oh, Todd, you're up.
Yeah.
And I thought it was unusual for him to get up so early with us because he normally didn't do that. And I just said, what are you doing? He goes, nothing, just watching. He didn't really have a lot to say. Maybe he was having second thoughts watching us play and we were laughing and stuff, but he didn't join with us. He just watched over us that morning.
Well, I gotta go.
And I told Todd, I've got to do some errands. And then once I get home, we'll get ready for the holidays. And he didn't say anything. Looking back now, I just wonder sometimes if he was looking in on us thinking, should I do this or should I not?
The indication of heavy fire coming out of the double windows with the most fire coming out of the front window.
I had some errands to run that morning. I was standing in line and a cop come in announcing he was looking for Stacy Willingham. And I was like, well, that's me.
Christmas tree that was in the corner in the living room. There's the remains of plastic toys.
So then I start panicking and I'm asking him, well, did something happen? Is something wrong? Did something happen to the girls or one of the girls? He goes, ma'am, I don't know. All I know is to take you to the hospital.
This is the kitchen area. The refrigerator has been placed back against the back door where it was upon the arrival of the fire department.
They put me in this little room, and the doctor come in and talked to me, and he says, Amber didn't make it. And I was like, well, what do you mean Amber didn't make it? What are you talking about? Where is she at?
This is the bed where the 2-year-old was found in the middle of the bed.
I start yelling in the ER, where is my daughter? I start going to open doors.
There's a charring underneath indicating that fire was underneath the bed.
So I run in there to her. And so I was holding her and I asked them, where are my twins at? Where are the girls at?
The other side of the entrance was one of the cribs for one of the 1-year-olds.
Someone said that they were at a funeral home. And I was like, a funeral home? Why are they at a funeral home? And she says, ma'am, your twins didn't make it either.
This is the east side of the house. This is the room where the babies were found.
And I was just I was just in shock. I just didn't understand. I kept just holding her and rocking her. I just begged, please wake up, Amber. I remember just begging that, just wanting her to wake up. And for it not to be real, you know. How are my kids dead? It's like, how are my girls gone? How is this happening? You're telling me that all three of my daughters are dead, but yet my husband is laying in the next room and he barely had any marks on him. So I wanted to know what was going on.
I'll give you guys a minute.
And when I walked in, he's like he couldn't look at me. He just wouldn't even look at me at first.
What happened, Todd?
He's saying that he woke up to Amber saying, Daddy, Daddy. He noticed there was smoke in the house, told her to get out of the house, went down the hall, went in the girls' room, tried to feel for him.
The room was filled with smoke.
He had found a teddy bear and thought he found one of the twins and got out and realized it wasn't one of the twins. It was a teddy bear. He said he got out of the house.
So you went back?
And I'm like, but why didn't you go back in to get the girls? And he says, well, I tried, but the fire was too much and I couldn't get back in. I was looking out the window and everybody left. There was just me and Todd in that room. And Todd asked me, he said, Stacy, what's wrong?
You okay?
And I was like, what? He said, what's wrong? Don't be sad. I said, Todd, we just lost all of our girls today, you know? He said, well, Stacy, don't worry. It'll be all right. We'll have more kids. We'll have another Amber, Carmen, and Cameron. Don't be sad.
We'll have more.
I just looked at him and I just turned around and looked out that window and thought, how did this person just say this to me? He just lost his girls too. How can you say that? It'll be all right. It was just shocking for me to hear him say that. And I just looked out the window. I never said a word back. Just looked out the window. I think I was just still in shock, but I never forgot that. Sometimes when I dream I'm in that house, the house is on fire and I'm reaching out to my girls and I sometimes have them by their hand, but they're just slipping. You know, I can't save them. This picture here is where the girls were, the twins. One was at the door going into the room and the other one was right there next to her. So if you were to go in that room and get down and just go like that to feel, you would have gotten the twins. I mean, my girls were just like right there. But at that time, I wasn't really told exactly what the evidence was with Todd. I just didn't know until years later, I did get the case file. And that's why I think at first Todd's plan did work to keep me. Before the fire, I was going to divorce Todd. After the fire, I didn't even think about the divorce anymore. I was still in shock. And I was hanging on to the only thing I had left, and that was Todd. Christmas Eve, that morning, Todd got out of the hospital. His parents picked him up, and I was there. Well, Todd started throwing a fit, no, I want to go to the house. And we were like, why? And he says, well, I want to go to the house. So we get there, standing in that house. That's a memory I can't get out of my head. I can't get that smell. I can sit here and I can smell that house, you know. They walk in the house and Todd grabs this cologne and he's dousing it back and forth. And I look and I'm like, what are you doing, Todd? He said, I'm pouring this cologne out because the twins like the smell of it. And I want the house to smell like my cologne because they like that. I just said, no, they don't. The twins can't even walk. They surely don't have a favorite cologne. And his dad says, boy, you need to stop doing that. They're probably still investigating this. He goes, I don't care. I don't care what they're doing. It's my house and I can do what I want. Todd walked down the hall. He's dousing it back and forth. He walks into the girls' room. He starts dousing it in the girls' room. But I didn't think anything about it. It's just cologne. I mean, if they're investigating it, surely they'll know the difference in cologne and something else. So it didn't raise any red flags to me. This is a picture of the diagram of our house. It's an evidence picture. This was the pattern where Todd has supposedly poured kerosene on the floor. When I seen this picture, and I thought, wait a second, I've seen this before. This picture brought me back to that day. And I looked at it and I thought, how did Todd pour that cologne exactly where they're saying the kerosene was poured? We had 3 kerosene lamps. And I believe Todd took those lamps off that shelf. I believe he poured them down the hallway. I believe he poured them down the girls' room, under the beds. And I think he set that fire and walked out that door. And then waited till the fire trucks come. Because they said Todd was just sitting in the yard. He was just sitting there till the fire trucks come. And it's the same pour pattern as he poured that cologne. It's like he was trying to get back to the house to cover up what he had done with cologne before they started the investigation. On January the 8th of 92, Todd was arrested. And we were going over to my parents' house, which was across town. The cops turn their lights on and they start yelling, saying, put your hands up. And Todd turned around and looked at me and he said, Stacy,
They're going to lie to you.
whatever you hear after I get arrested, you don't believe it. You only listen to me and you believe what I tell you. Only believe what I say, because they're going to try to make you believe a lot of stuff that's not true. I'm like, what are you talking about, Todd?
Todd Willingham, exit the car with your hands up.
And he said, just remember, only listen to me. They come over, they arrest Todd. Well, I says, why are you arresting my husband?
What are you doing to him?
And they said, Stacy, we're arresting him for murder of your 3 daughters. And I'm like, what? How can you be doing that? Todd didn't do this. They just said, well, yes, he did. I started crying. You lose all 3 of your daughters at one time in a fire. And now 2 weeks later, you're supposed to believe that the man you had those babies with killed them. How are you to believe that? I can't even believe my daughters are dead, but now you want me to believe that my husband did it? How do you even process that? Todd wouldn't have hurt the girls. He wouldn't do this. That's just all I kept saying. And they took him off and they just left me there. This is a letter Todd wrote me a couple days before I was to testify for him, to tell me what I needed to say on the stand. I've never shared this letter or any letter that Todd ever wrote me. It says, Stacy, just be calm and do the best you can. And just remember, all you have to do is let them know the best memories, because those are the ones that will sound best. They are trying to make me look bad. You are to make me look good. And don't be afraid to cry. So he was telling me what to say to make him look good. I did testify on Todd's behalf. I did lie on stand for Todd. I did it for Todd because that's what he asked. When I was asked if me and Todd had a fight before the fire, I said that we didn't fight, and we did. I said that Todd didn't beat me. He told me to not tell him that he had beat me with a telephone because that would make him look bad. And I told him he'd have never hurt the kids. And I've said that several times because I still just couldn't believe a parent would kill their children. I didn't want to lie, but I just felt like I didn't have a choice with him. Even though Todd was locked up, I was just scared of Todd. After Todd was found guilty and was sentenced to death row, I still believed in Todd. I still thought Todd was innocent. I just couldn't believe that a parent would do that. So I believed him. And they brought Todd out.
Wait a minute.
And he's telling me, Stacy, don't you ever forget me. And he keeps yelling it, don't you ever forget me.
Remember me, Stacy, all right?
Todd.
I didn't do it. Don't let them take me away from you.
I went to Todd's execution. He said he was innocent. And then he turned to me and started just cussing me, saying, I hope you rot in hell, bitch. I remember that. And I remember him taking his arm and pushing it to give me a middle finger. But not one time did Todd ever say, I love my daughters. I never killed my daughters. He never mentions his daughters' names. I think that's what an innocent person would be yelling out. The next thing I know, they were touching me and telling me it was time to go. I thought that was it. Finally, it's over. Finally, I can move on. But how wrong I was. I was so wrong. After he was executed, I started seeing things in the paper about the Innocence Project. They think Todd's innocent. Texas executed an innocent man. I was told about the New Yorker article from my lawyer. When the New Yorker was published, they put in the article that it was bad science. And there's even another report from a fire expert saying that some of the stuff that they did use to prove his guilt was outdated. And the fire was either caused by a gas space heater or an electrical fire. But the gas was checked.
In the west wall, there was a space heater. It was connected to a metal pipe to the gas outlet. Again, there is no fire damage from the heater, eliminating it as a possible cause of the fire.
The gas was turned off. There was no gas going to that house. And also the electrical was checked, and there was no electrical fire.
An electrical outlet on the east wall, wiring still intact, no evidence of shorts.
There was no gas on our house, and the electrical wire was checked. So it is arson. But still, they were yelling it from the rooftops. Cameron Todd Willingham was innocent. I felt like they were using him as a poster child to stop the death penalty in Texas. But find someone else, because this man was not innocent. He was guilty. When Todd got an execution date, I went up to the courthouse. They went to walk him out. And he looked at me and he said, Stacy, you need to come see me. You need to come see me. There are things that need to be said. You best come see me. And then he walked out. And 2 weeks before he was executed, on January the 31st, I went and visited with him on death row. When I went in there, I didn't know if Todd had done it or not. That's when I found out the truth. He said, Stacy, honestly, I didn't even go in there. I didn't even try to save the girls. I just walked out of the house. He said, do you remember the last time we fought before the fire? Do you remember what you said to me? I said, yes, I turned to you and I told you I didn't care what you had to say because after Christmas, I was divorcing you. He goes, right. He said, Stacy, I believed you. In my mind, I could not let you walk out of that house. You were not leaving me, and I didn't care what it took. You were not going to leave me. You were not divorcing me. And the only thing I could think of is if you didn't have Amber, Carmen, or Cameron, you couldn't leave me and go have kids with someone else. You could only have an Amber, Carmen, and Cameron with me. And when he said that, it's like that night at the hospital come into my mind. I'm like, he told me that the day of the fire. He told me, don't worry, because we'll have another Amber, Carmen, and Cameron. He said, I took what I knew would hurt you to make you stay with me. I'm so stupid for what I've done. After Todd had told me what he had done, he wanted me to write a letter and tell them that I would rather Todd spend life in prison than to be executed.
I don't want to die.
He said, Stacy, nobody wants to die. I said, Todd, you're right. No one wants to die. And I can guarantee you on December 23rd, my 3 daughters did not want to die in that house. Todd didn't just take my world. Todd took my future. This man just didn't take 3 girls from me. He took everything from me. He took my girls. He took my grandkids away. He took my life and what future I might have had away from me. And I just got up and I walked out. That was the last time I ever spoke to him. I've read where people say, you defended Todd all these years. I defended Todd for 10 months, not 13 years. And then I had read where one of the reporters had come to my house and interviewed me, and I told him that Todd didn't confess to me and all that, and that wasn't true. I never said that. The people that say that I lied, they're right. I did lie on stand for Todd, but I didn't lie about what Todd told me. Todd was not innocent. This is a letter that Todd sent me the day after our visitation. I've never shared this letter until today. It says, Dear Stacy, how are you? I hope this finds you well and in good spirits. I am grateful for you coming to see me and giving me a chance to say the things I could. He says that the visit was cleansing to his conscience. Saying those things in person meant so much more. So not only did he tell me face to face, he also wrote me. I don't really care what any report says. I don't believe a New Yorker or anything else. I believe what Todd told me. I hope telling the truth will make people realize, that Todd did murder my daughters. And it's not about the death penalty. It's not about that. Todd is guilty, and he's guilty of killing 3 little girls that everybody seems to have forgotten. No one will ever heal from losing a child. Never, ever. But in my case, you have to move on. You have to live. Either you're going to lay down and die, or you're going to get up and live. It's 2 choices you have. I chose to get up, and I chose to live. But I know one day I will be back with my daughters. And that's what keeps me going.
There was a huge shadow over us of who could have possibly done this. If not a friend, then who? Everybody that I looked at. I started wondering, is it this guy? Is it this person who would possibly do this? The only way that I can really describe your world being blown apart is devastation and loss. A part of me died that night. A piece of my innocence. A piece of my hope. All of my dreams. Gone. It changed me, and not for the better. When I met Michael, I was in my junior year of high school. We met on a blind date. He was about 3 years older than me. I told him I was a gymnast, and he wanted to see something. And of course, me. I go doing a bunch of backflips down the yard, and he was just enamored at that point, and he called me the next day. And then I think we talked every day for a week or so, and then just decided to take it to the next step. I was attracted to his charm. Not very many men would carry your purse at the mall, but he was one of those guys who did that. And at that time in my life, that was what I wanted. He was very smart. Very, very smart. He loved working on cars. I can't remember a time that his hands were ever clean. At one point, he was going to work for his dad in the construction field. Working side by side was pretty awesome. He got to see another side of me outside of the home. My son was still pretty young in his early 20s and just trying to find his way, trying to really search to see what path he wanted. I don't think he had anything really zeroed down yet. Michael could tell his dad anything, and I was envious of that because I didn't come from that kind of a family. The environment I try to create is just to try to be always open. There's no secrets. There's problems we all work together to solve. Michael's dad accepted me like I was one of their own. At one point, Michael's dad got a wood stove, so he taught me how to chop firewood. That was fun. And I think that's where Mike got that protective aspect from, was from his dad, because his dad would make sure the family was taken care of no matter what. Michael wanted to be my knight in shining armor. He wanted to fix everything that was wrong in my life. After dating 4 years, Michael and Margaret move in with Margaret's grandmother. My grandmother was diabetic, and she had onset dementia, so we moved in, took care for her. Michael and I had the basement. We were pretty reclusive. We would just hang out inside, watch movies, cuddle up on the couch, talk about life, the things we wanted out of life. Michael and Margaret return home after celebrating Mrs. Temple's birthday. They're surprised to find their friend Kelly waiting for them. Kelly needed to use our computer to get a money transfer, so we walk inside to my bedroom so then Kelly could use our computer for a little bit. The three head for the basement, careful not to disturb anyone. Margaret's grandmother is asleep upstairs, and her visiting uncle is in the living room watching TV. A couple seconds later, we hear a knock at the door. So Michael opened the door, and the first thing we saw was a pistol coming through a small crack in the door. 2 armed and masked men burst into the couple's bedroom. We were in shock. The 2 guys took Michael over to the safe and asked him to open it. He said no. So then they threatened me. He still said no. And then fight or flight just kicked in. And I started fighting the guy who was in front of me. He started hitting me in the head with the butt of the gun. And I saw stars. I was just doing my best to stay conscious and fight for my life. As I'm fighting, I hear what sounds like 2 pots being hit together. What Margaret hears isn't pots and pans. It's gunfire. The guy that was fighting me ran off. So I went over to check on Michael, and he was down on the floor by the back door. He had a hole in his chest and in his thigh, just leaking blood. The man who just shot Michael now aims at his next target. I vividly remember him raising the gun, and I feel like I can still see it in slow motion of him lifting up the gun. It felt like he had it right to my forehead. And I remember looking past it to him, and he was wearing all black. The only thing that I remember seeing was these bright eyes, and I just closed my eyes, thinking I was dead. When I opened my eyes, both of them were gone. Michael was on the floor with pulled blood. He was coughing. He could barely talk, but he told me that he stabbed the guy. He just kept saying that over and over before he lost consciousness. Kelly runs upstairs and calls 911. I got a phone call from home from my supervision, who advised that there had been a home invasion, a robbery gone bad. suspect had shot Michael twice, and he had to be taken up to our shock trauma with life-threatening injuries. The police took him and I both to shock trauma. I had a huge gash over my eye, and the police tried to question me, but I didn't want to answer their questions until I knew Michael was okay, and they wouldn't answer me. I'm communicating with the doctors and the nurses. We could never really get a clear answer to if our son's gonna live or die. You feel like your world is shattered, and all the control you thought you had, it's just gone. As Michael Temple Jr. fights for his life, police rush Margaret's grandmother and injured uncle to safety and try to bring order to a chaotic scene. It was snowy then, and folks were in their houses. They heard it. People were genuinely concerned about what happened at that home. They didn't necessarily know the particulars or Michael Jr. specifically. But when this initially happened, there was panic in that neighborhood. Once we got Michael out of there, we searched the area. It was snowing heavily. So we're looking for footprints or any type of other evidence. The first thing I remember noticing was blood near a light pole. After Michael was shot in the leg, he pulled out a knife that he had in his pocket, and he stabbed the suspect, who then shot him in the chest. We began to follow that trail that went out from the basement up into the front yard to that light pole, and then it stopped. So we believed that would be where whoever was stabbed got into a vehicle and left the area. A neighbor tells police he heard the gunshots and moments later saw a silver truck speed away. We immediately contacted hospitals in the area in the hopes that maybe he went there to seek medical treatment. But we learned that no one had come in at any of the medical locations in our area. Detective DiPietro examines the crime scene, hoping it will speak for itself. If you were to go to the house for the first time, you would obviously go to the front door, but these individuals went to the side door. We figured it was someone that knew the victim because they knew exactly where to go to. We recovered 357 SIG cartridge casings in the kitchen area, and we located the knife that Michael used to stab the suspect underneath the dresser area. I remember as I went down to the bottom of the stairs and I looked to the right into this bedroom. I remember seeing a safe in the closet. Right away, I thought, if there's a safe involved. Is that what these guys were looking for? When the police pulled me in for questioning, they wanted the safe combination. I wanted to be helpful to catch the people that did this, but I also didn't want charges put on me. Margaret's desire to find justice for Michael wins out, and she gives up the combination. Police find a stash of opioid pills inside. We were talking about drug involvement now, so it increased our suspect pool by a lot. We only allowed certain people to come to the house. I gave the police every person who had access to the house. One of those people is Margaret's friend, Kelly, who was waiting for Michael and Margaret when they got home. Kelly told detectives that she just happened to be at the house when they came home, and she went inside with them. And then all of a sudden, these two home invasion robbers come in, and she was not heard or touched during the assault. The other two were assaulted and beat up and shot at and injured. So it was very suspicious. Kelly insists she was only at the house to use Michael's computer. We had that computer analyzed to check to see exactly what she was doing, and we did verify that. In fact, she was doing a wire transfer paperwork. We spent quite a bit of time looking into Margaret's friend, and every bit of investigation we did never linked her to the crime, actually excluded her in some incidences as having any knowledge or involvement in it. We play music for Michael and try to talk to him, which was what I did while he was unconscious. Once he was able to at least talk through writing. I had this little spiral notebook that we talked all day, back and forth, just writing to each other, asking each other if we were okay, with Michael now conscious. Detective DiPietro pays him a visit. But Michael didn't really provide any suspect information. He just didn't know. Michael tells police that the list of people who know about the safe is a short one. He says he's a small-time dealer who only sells to people he knows well. I told him that, You know, with the amount of people he has coming to his house, that eventually someone's going to come in to rob him. And he's going to get shot. Mike got involved with drugs in high school. He was very bored with school. And Mike has a very addictive personality, and prescription drugs were easy enough to get in our area. Mike and I could have gotten our hands on just about anything we wanted. Every addict tells themselves that pills are safer, that you're not really an addict because it's something that's prescribed. But in my case, I knew what I was doing. We had some codependencies and, we fed each other's addiction. Just like many couples who are fighting that battle. We wanted kids. Unfortunately, I was told that I can't have kids. The medication to fix the problem was going to be a couple $1,000s a month, and we couldn't afford that. So we started thinking of ways that we could make that happen. So Michael, when he brought to my attention that there's a way to make a lot of money, I was weary at first, but we decided to try. And it started going pretty well. He didn't want me close to that part of it. I was just mostly around for the ride. My idea was, let's just, do it until we have enough to pay for the fertility doctor. And we'll stop there. And then, a couple weeks later, his pride kind of got the better of him. Once we got to the amount that we needed, he actually invested it to flip it again. We were in the process of getting all that back when the shooting happened. I think all of us shouldn't be shamed or put down for doing something egregious or illegal or nefarious, because no one is perfect. Not to say that Michael Jr. should have been doing what he was doing, but at the same time, this was something that resulted in a lot of heartache and a lot of pain for family. And, they are certainly innocent. Michael survives and improves enough to leave the hospital, but in a wheelchair. We put an additional into the house. I had a living room and bathroom. They would accommodate a wheelchair. Outside elevator. That would be able to lift him up and down to get him into the house. Most positive sign. It's just his will to survive. Because most people, and I include myself, I would have just rolled over because of the condition. He was just unimaginable. But seeing what your child is going through, it was very stressful and strange. It's just, those first couple months were very hard, very emotional. We just racked our brain of who could do this. If not a friend, then who? Everybody that I looked at. I started wondering, is it this guy? Is it this person who would possibly do this? As Michael Temple Jr. faces a long and uncertain road to recovery. Detectives develop a new lead as to who may have targeted his safe. When this occurred, we were experiencing a higher amount than normal of home invasion robberies. A gang called DMI, Dead Men's Incorporated, were suspected of being involved. They possibly owed Michael money. Michael might have owed them money, and they may have known where he kept his money and drugs. So once we learned of a possible gang involvement, the department immediately formed a task force to investigate all these cases and try to figure out who had done this to Michael. An anonymous tip points detectives to one particular member of Dead Ben's 8. We located him walking down a street one day. He was cooperative, and he agreed to give us his DNA. And he also agreed to take his shirt off for investigators to show he had not been stabbed. We submitted his DNA to our lab, and we later learned that he was not the person that we were looking for. With no more suspects. The case of the brutal home invasion that left a young man paralyzed freezes in the dead of winter. It got very frustrating for us because we had gone down a bunch of rabbit holes trying to find out who did this. And every hole we went down, we were just hitting a brick wall. Though the shooters are in the wind, police do make one arrest. Margaret. They charge her with felony possession of drugs with intent to distribute. My mind was complete chaos. I felt like I betrayed my family and Michael's family. I just was lost. I didn't have any direction. I had no hope. I had no future. I didn't know what else to do other than to turn myself in and just see where it took me. Margaret avoids further hardship when a judge only sentences her to probation. Michael is spared charges, but his fading health puts a strain on the young couple's relationship. He was losing touch with his inner strength. His body would have these little seizures, and I think each time there was a complication, he just lost a little bit more hope. He had a light about him that just made me want to be around him all the time, but he just started losing touch with me. A year into caring for Michael, he saw the emotional toll that it was taking. One day, he just came to me and told me that I have to go. I have to go and find my own path. So I think Michael saw the struggle that I was having. I just wasn't healthy, and I think we both sort of needed to break away. As the years pass, it becomes clear that Michael isn't getting any better. It just was a downward trend the whole time. It was hard to watch because you knew that a part of him was suffering. I got a call from Mike's father telling me that he had tried to call Mike and couldn't get a hold of him, and he came home to find Michael on the floor. Mister. Mike wasn't sure Mike was going to make the ambulance ride to the hospital. I left immediately, went to the hospital, and by the time I got there, Mike was gone. The infections and blood clots from wounds that never truly healed had become too much for Michael's. It wasn't until a few weeks later that I contacted his friend Chris, and Chris told me that they already had the funeral, and that I wasn't allowed to go, so I didn't get to say goodbye. I think his dad felt very betrayed. He let me in. He treated me like his own family, and I think Mr. Mike felt like I walked away. I think he wanted me to do better and be better, and I couldn't do that. I couldn't emotionally do that or be that at that time. Michael's death, 5 years after the home invasion that destroyed his life, heats up this cold case. After Michael had passed away, the detectives called me and said that the entire course of their investigation was shifting from assault with a deadly weapon to murder. And with it being a murder case and a cold case, that it was going to pick up more momentum moving forward. Because Michael Jr. didn't die initially, I think the case lost a lot of its steam, until the autopsy revealed that the cause of his death were injuries sustained from that home invasion. That is what turned this from an assault to a murder investigation. And I think that is what changed the tempo in trying to get the word out about solving this case. When you're given a cold case, the first thing you do is look at the original case file to see if there is anything that could have possibly been overlooked. Detectives Collier and DiPietro take a fresh look at everything, starting with the original crime scene. Michael's down on the ground over there, and I see the guy crouched down, the little guy with the bandana with the gun. Okay. He's got his gun to Mike's temple. So when you guys came in through this way, obviously, the bad guys, you would have noticed if someone would have followed you right out. Right. So where do you believe these guys were? Do you think they were in with your uncle? Or do you think they came in through this other door at the top of the stairs? No, I think they were in here with my uncle. Because even if the blinds were up that way, I would have saw a shadow or somebody walk past the front of the house. Would you have heard them if they came in through this door? Yes. Yeah. Because it's right next to our room. Investigators try once again to run DNA found at the crime scene. They don't get a hit. But it isn't a lost cause yet. Our evidence coordinator, Craig Robinson, had read an article about a company saying they're doing some cutting-edge stuff with DNA analysis. We can basically take an unknown profile and phenotype it so they can give you what most likely the person would look like. To create this portrait of a killer, genealogists used blood left on the knife that Michael used to stab his attacker. When they generate the snapshot, they can tell you what eye color somebody has, what their hair color is, where their origin is from, the night that the home invasion robbery occurred. The suspects were wearing a bandana and face mask. So we really didn't have too much to go on. But Margaret stated that she did see the person's eyes. I couldn't recognize his face, but he did have the bluish eyes. We never told the company that. So once I saw the sketch, I felt these guys are obviously legit. Anne Arundel County investigators released the computer-generated snapshot of Michael's killer. When we put that composite out, I was very excited about it. I thought, somebody's going to recognize him. I couldn't fathom that somebody would have kept their mouth shut for this many years and not shared with anyone else that they had done this. Somebody's going to recognize this person and relate it back to a story they might have heard. But it didn't go anywhere. It didn't take us to any suspects. And that brick wall makes another appearance. And we smacked right into it. Police in Anne Arundel County were stumped. Authorities say it was 2 clues that they were able to. So I was first introduced to the Temple investigation relatively late. I was the cold case reporter, that who would build relationships with detectives within police departments. And the homicide detective and the cold case detective sat me down and said, "Hey, listen, we think we might be able to solve a cold case." We needed to get out into the public so the community knows that this case, we did not just forget about it. We did not just stop working on it. I was like, okay, here we go. I was introduced to Michael Temple Sr. It was at the cemetery where his son and wife are buried. I remember it being an extremely snowy day. He was someone who was on the brink of giving up hope, but also holding out a sliver that something might change. Standing at the foot of his son's grave, the typically reserved father makes a desperate plea to the public. Snitching is a word invented by cowards. What I'm asking for is help and justice, which is for the strong to stand up for what's right. And any help that we could get would be greatly appreciated. A father's plea for justice on the local news brings Michael Temple Jr.'s case back into the mind of the public. But nothing else. The appeal doesn't yield a single new lead. It took the wind out of my sails at that point. You just can't fathom that somebody hasn't come forward. But we didn't give up. Detective Collier holds out hope that genealogists might get a result from a radical new investigative tool they've been developing. It's called reverse genetic genealogy. When you are doing investigative genetic genealogy, instead of going backward in time, now you've got to come forward in time. My job is to identify those common ancestors and then identify all of their descendants and narrow it down to a very small pool of potential persons of interest, oftentimes only one. Genealogists again turn to the blood on the knife Michael used to stab his attacker. They want to use the DNA from that blood to build a family tree that could include the killer. We were able to find different connections that all zeroed in on one family tree, and that set of parents only had one son. We were kind of shocked. So we pulled up a picture of this guy, and wow, look at his eyes. This could be our guy. This could be our killer. His name is Fred Frampton Jr., and he looks like this snapshot generated with a DNA profile 3 years earlier. He lived in the area. He was the right age, and he did have prior police contact up until 2010. From 2010 on, this person had no more police contacts, with no prior felony convictions. Brampton's DNA never made it into CODIS. And we learned still to that day, he had a silver truck registered to him, which, again, a neighbor said they saw a silver truck flee in the scene. Then we ran to see if he owned any guns. And he owned a .357, which is the same caliber of the shell casings that we found next to Michael Temple that night. It all started to click. Investigators believe Frampton is their bright-eyed killer, but they are still a long way from proving it. They will need a sample of Frampton's DNA to match what they found on the bloody knife. A team follows Frampton day and night, looking for the right time to secretly snatch anything that might have his DNA on it. We observed Fred Frampton and his other co-workers go to lunch, and he was walking into a 7-Eleven smoking a cigarette. He actually flicked the cigarette right at the detective's car, so we waited for him to go inside, and we grabbed a cigarette. I just couldn't believe that it just happened so easily. Lo and behold, it was a DNA match. We couldn't believe it. It was a great feeling. It felt like Christmas. Police arrest Fred Frampton Jr. He kept asking, "What's this about?" And he's like, I'm under arrest. I was like, yes, you're under arrest. And I told him, let's talk about what happened on Williamsburg Lane. At first, he said he didn't recall ever being on Williamsburg Lane. We have your DNA. We know you were there. He looked at us, and he's like, how did you get my DNA? And I remember telling him, you gotta watch where you throw your cigarette butts. Once he discovered that we had his DNA, his whole demeanor did change because he knew that it was over. And from there, he confessed to everything. He said Michael Temple pulled out a knife and stabbed him. And he goes, once he stabbed me, then he goes, I shot him. Frampton admits he's the killer, but claims the home invasion wasn't his idea. He admitted that it was his friend Jonathan Ludwig's idea, and he was the one that he did the home invasion with. Jonathan Ludwig was a client of Margaret and Michael Temple, so it was a targeted home invasion. He stated that at that time, him and Jonathan were inseparable. Jonathan Ludwig knew exactly where the safe was, knew that they should have drugs and money in the safe. Unlike Frampton, Ludwig will never see the inside of a courtroom. He died of a drug overdose 7 months earlier, in the years following the murder. Margaret Ridgely had picked up the pieces and moved on. She had a son and was settling into a new home when police called. It was the detective, and she told me that they got a hit on the DNA, and they finally know who it was that shot Mike. And in that moment, I lost all my breath. I hit my knees, and I just started to cry. Finally getting answers was the most freeing moment that I've had. There's one more person investigators have to tell about this break in the case, Michael's father. The most shocking part was knowing that the murderer was actually working with Mr. Mike after the incident for a number of years. I can't imagine the feeling, knowing that he could have looked his son's killer in the eye every day. We brought Mr. Temple into the Criminal Investigation Division, and we sat him down. And we told him the name of the two suspects. Mr. Temple was visibly upset. He actually trained Fred Frampton and Jonathan Ludwig on his construction site. He's a guy who, when you shake his hand, you feel the calluses of the hard work that he puts in. He also wants the people around him to do well. And so when you have these folks that are working with him on a construction site, he's taken them under his wing and the deceit that he felt. So you keep your friends closer and your enemies closer. You can't get no closer. You can see how he was seething. You can see the sheer frustration, the anger, my goodness, you've been here right next to me this entire time under my nose. When they first told me, you just stop, trying to get out of yourself. I hear this was people that worked right beside me. For somebody to do that, it'd be that cold and calculating, and just be right next to you the whole time. And you can see your pain, and it's just unfathomable. It's just against all human nature. Prosecutor Samantha Mildenberg offers Frampton a choice: plead guilty and face 55 years in prison with the possibility of parole, or go to trial and risk life without parole. Frampton's lawyer asks for mercy, blaming his client as a changed man. Mr. Frampton's argument for leniency was he stayed out of trouble. He had turned his life around. He had kicked his habit, and he was working and raising his son. Personally, anyone can see that this individual made a huge mistake. The other side of me saw that another individual was murdered because of his brazen acts of going into a home late at night, armed with a gun, to steal money. He wanted what he wanted, and he did what he did. And there are repercussions to everybody's actions. Ultimately, he went ahead and took a plea. At his sentencing hearing, Frampton apologizes for the killing. That apology does nothing to change the judge's mind. Frampton gets 55 years in prison with the possibility of parole. The only time he was sorry is that he got caught. He had a relationship. His son can still come see him in jail. My son's still in the graveyard. He's never getting. It's over. I have no empathy for him at all. I distinctly remember the judge telling Mr. Frampton that you had these 9 years to spend with your family, to walk the streets, to have a job, to celebrate holidays, and go on vacation, do all the things that Mr. Temple never got to do, whatever Michael Jr. was doing with those guys all those years ago. It didn't need to be this. It didn't need to be death and jail and deceit and grieving relatives for a decade. It didn't need to be any of this. I'd like my son to be remembered as having a good heart. Fun, maybe adventurous, not the perfect child, but definitely one that enjoyed life and respected others, loved his family. If I could talk to Michael's family, I would say that I'm sorry that I couldn't save him, and that I never stopped loving them. And I really hope they're happy, or as happy as they can be.